Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
During our Farm Basics time each week, we talk about things that we as farmers normally deal with that as a non-farmer or as a young farmer you may not be super familiar with. Well, today's topic is fallow. What is a fallow year, and do farmers actually need to have a fallow year?
Well, a fallow year is a year where you're not growing a crop and you're letting the ground rest. And this is something I didn't understand at all as a kid growing up on a farm because, well, we raised a crop every year. We really never had a fallow. So I thought, why on earth would people do that when you can just plant seed and grow another crop?
Yep, well, it basically comes down to moisture. If you have irrigation, you have lots of rainfall, you're probably never doing a fallow year. But what we see in some of the very driest areas of the United States and around the world is sometimes they will just let the ground sit for a year to hopefully accumulate some moisture. So then going into the next year, they have a little more moisture in that soil, and then they can raise a better crop.
Well, it is an interesting strategy. And you say, well, even if they don't have very much moisture, couldn't they raise a small crop and at least get some income? Because that's a tough thing to say, I have this asset, this farmland, I'm not going to take any profit at all this year, and I might have to have some expense if I've got some problem weeds out there that I need to knock out. It's interesting to think about that. What are the economics of fallow?
Yeah, or the flip side is when you say, hey, isn't there something I can raise? What else could I do with my cultural practices so there is more moisture left out there? For example, in the state of South Dakota, there used to be quite a bit of fallow done way back 30, 40, 50 years ago, but then no-till came along. And once people started no-tilling, they realized, oh, there's a lot more moisture in the soil. This is actually a pretty good thing. Now I can raise a crop, not that it's amazing, but I can at least raise a crop every year, and to Darren's point, at least get some income. Some is a lot better than nothing. It's really hard when you have to go to every other year getting income, or only half of your farm is getting income if you're rotating your acres into fallow, out of fallow. So it's really challenging. And here's the other thing. Is it that healthy for the soil? Let's say that you did tillage or you just killed everything off with herbicide all the time. Is that healthy for the soil?
Well, you think about all those little microbes out there that need something living to feed on. And yes, you could hurt microbial populations, but so can extreme drought. So extreme drought can be a big issue. So there are some challenges in the western part of our country and in the areas that don't get much rainfall.
Yep, one other thing that I'll throw out is this. If you're in a dry area, it's even more important to have great weed control, great insect control, great disease control, and ample and balanced fertility. If a crop starts to run short on any one nutrient, what it's going to do is it's going to start wasting water. It's going to start bringing in more water than it needs to just to get those nutrients. So if you're in a dry area, that pest control, more important than ever, and that fertility, more important than ever. So I would just say, well, it's kind of like our dad told us when he moved to South Dakota, coming from Iowa as a farmer. He said, boys, I found out in Iowa, rain corrected a lot of my mistakes. I had to be even more meticulous farming when I got to this dry area.
Well, one thing we do see in dry parts of the country is farmers taking a fallow year and not raising a crop for a year on certain fields as part of a management practice to conserve water is one of the big things to hopefully have a more successful crop the next year.
Well, whether you have a fallow year or not, you might see our Weed of the Week out there, but we'll tell you how to control it coming up later in the show.